After a wedding, the biggest fear for any photographer is losing priceless memories. But here's the thing, it's not just about saving files. It's about having a bulletproof workflow that keeps you organized, efficient, and stress-free. In this video, I'm sharing the exact upload and backup process that I've created over the last 12 years. And trust me, it'll change the way that you handle wedding files forever. Hey everyone, my name's Colton Simmons, and I'm a wedding photographer that's done my fair share of creating systems that have allowed for me to be able to have my files organized and easily accessible when it comes time to edit my photos and get them to my clients. Getting home after a wedding feels like the finish line, but here's the truth. It's just the beginning of ensuring that your couple's memories are safe. Let's break down these very first steps that I take to protect and organize these priceless moments. As soon as I get home from a wedding, the very first thing that I do is upload my photos to an editing drive. This is usually a fast SSD external hard drive. An SSD hard drive is simply just a solid state drive that uses onboard memory to store your files rather than a spinning disk in the old school conventional hard drives. The reason why I use a faster and smaller hard drive is because I want to be able to have access to these files as soon as possible. I'm infamously known for having 24-hour previews to my couple. Sometimes they'll get a link to their gallery before they even wake up in the morning. So being able to get my files from SD cards to hard drives is super crucial for my process. Now, over the years, I've used plenty of different SSD drives from different companies for this process, and I found that the Samsung T-Series drives happen to be the most reliable and fastest drives out there. You want to look to get a T7 or a T9, somewhere in the 4 to 6 terabyte range. When it comes to getting these files on your computer, you want to make sure that you have tons of SD card readers. I know it can feel a little outrageous to have 4 or 5 SD card readers plugged into your computer, but this is going to be the fastest way for you to get your files onto the computer. If you're working with a laptop that has limited USB drives, I would highly recommend getting a USB hub. This will allow for you to be able to plug in more USB devices at once. And I get it, the more SD cards that you plug in, the slower that they'll all upload. But this gives you a time to just plug in all your cards, upload them, go shower, get a snack, take a little break after you've gotten home from the wedding, and just allow your computer to do its job. When it comes to actually uploading the files to your computer though, I hear from so many photographers that they'll go into Lightroom and use Lightroom to upload their photos into their computer. And this is the biggest mistake that you can make in the uploading process. Whether you're on Windows or Mac, you want to make sure that you're copying the files from the SD card exactly to the location on the hard drive where you're going to be storing them. You don't want Lightroom to do this because if you do that, it'll only allow you to upload one at a time and you'll be up until 3 in the morning uploading all your files. Make sure you're well acquainted with your operating system and know exactly how to copy your files directly from your SD card over to your hard drive. When it comes to the location where my files are stored, there's 2 drives that I rely on. It's the editing drive that I just explained to you and my network attached storage device, also known as a NAS. But if you're unsure of exactly what that is, I'll be breaking that down in the next section, so stick around. Once those files are finished uploading to my editing drive, I just take that folder and I copy it over to my network storage drive, creating my very first backup. Loading and organizing your photos is just the first step, but ensuring that those memories are truly safe requires more than just storage. Let's talk about the backup systems and security measures that keep your files protected no matter what happens. You might be asking yourself, why is it important to have so many backups? Before getting into the wedding industry, I had a career in IT where I worked with backing up clients' files all the time. So I'm very familiar with making sure that if one part of my system fails, I have 2, maybe 3 backups that can help me in the case that I need to restore files. One of my most used tools in my office is my Synology 8-bay NAS. And like I said earlier, NAS is just short for network attached storage device. So this is a hard drive that gets plugged into an Ethernet wire and gets connected to my router, and it's one of the best storage solutions you could have. My NAS has 103 terabytes of storage, and I purchased it back in 2002, and I probably still have 3 to 4 more years of storage left on it, only using about 40 terabytes of the 103 that I have. The great thing about a NAS is that it uses multiple drives to protect your files. These drives are set up in an array and they store your files across all of them so that if something happens to one of them and they fail, you can replace the drive and still have access to your files. This setup ensures that you have long-term storage without sacrificing performance and safety. Now, the price tag on these systems aren't that cheap. They can range anywhere from $800 to $900 up to $3,000 to $4,000. Now, if buying a drive like this doesn't make sense for you financially right now, I always recommend getting something like a 10 to 12 terabyte hard drive that sits on your desk and acts sort of like a NAS in that you offload all of your photos onto it when you're not editing. This is a drive that sits on your desk and never leaves. Although you don't have the security of the multiple backup drives, the software that I'm about to introduce to you next will change that. The next form of backup that you're going to implement for your files is cloud storage. The easiest, most user-friendly software that I found throughout the years is Backblaze. The way Backblaze works is once you install the program, you select all the folders that you want to have backed up to the cloud, and it'll slowly start uploading those files one at a time. Every time you update that file or you add new files to the folders, they will also be backed up. So with Backblaze, you just set it and forget it. What I do is I make sure that my editing drive is backed up to Backblaze, and I also make sure that my NAS is backed up to Backblaze. So I have 2 physical locations in my office, and I also have 2 cloud locations for my files. So at this point, my files are now being stored in 4 different places. So that gives me a redundancy plan. So if 2 things fail, I still have 2 other locations where my files will be stored. This really helps me sleep at night knowing that my client's files won't go missing. Now, if you can't afford a NAS and you get the larger external hard drive like I had mentioned, you can also back that up to Backblaze. I've had an experience in the past where one of my hard drives failed and I was able to get all of that information off of Backblaze and put it onto a new hard drive. I'm not gonna lie to you, I did panic a little bit, but all of my files were safe, and that's what really pushed me to get a NAS and have that extra storage space to be able to store all of my files in. Now, my final backup process isn't quite a backup because it's actually all of the original files in SD cards. Once I've uploaded all of my photos to the drive and they're backed up on my NAS, I take all of the SD cards, I organize them, I have this little accordion folder that I put all of the cards in, and then that goes in a fireproof safe in my office. Now, in the case that my house burns down and the cloud server locations burn down, at least I have a fireproof safe that will still have my couple's photos safely secure. And I know you're saying, Colton, you're crazy, but if you've ever lost files, you know exactly how I feel, and this is just the perfect way to have the complete insurance policy. The SD cards that I keep in the safe, I keep there until I'm completely done editing the wedding. And I know it can be a little bit of a cost to have to buy so many SD cards to make sure that they stay in there for the entire time that you're editing. This ensures that the original photos stay safe until you deliver the final gallery to your clients. Another thing I want to encourage is to make sure that all of your online cloud storage have 2-factor authentication. And I know it might be annoying to have to get texted a code every time you want to log in, but the last thing you want to do is to rely on this storage and some hacker or nefarious person gets access to your cloud storage and deletes all of your files in a time of need when a hard drive fails. Now, having multiple backups protects your files, but staying organized is what keeps your workflow running smoothly. Let me share my simple yet effective folder structure that saves time and keeps every wedding perfectly organized. Inside of my SSD, I keep all of my folders organized by date. So I start with the overarching year, 2025. And then inside of that folder, I'll have every month, and I start each month with the numbers so that they organize in order. The way that computers work, alphabetical order will just throw them in any order that they are in the alphabet. With the numbers, you're ensuring that they go in order of how they go in the year. Then within each one of those month folders, I create a folder for each couple, session, or brand that I'm working with that month. And then inside of those folders is where I store all of the raw files. Very simple, but it makes sure that you keep everything organized and you don't have to dig around this long list of files that you just have haphazardly everywhere, and you're able to find the folder exactly where you need it. You can click January, Sarah and Jeff's wedding, and you know that all of their raw files are there. Now, I don't go an extra step to rename the files. I think that's a little too much, and I want to make sure that this organization of your raws is kept very easy and can be done without even having to think. I rely on the names of the folders to keep me organized, and I think that's more than enough. Once the files have finally been uploaded to the folder, I then take that folder, drag it into Lightroom, and upload them all into Lightroom. As I'd mentioned earlier, I like to get my clients previews within 24 hours after their wedding. This workflow has really optimized my ability to be able to do that because after getting home, after about an hour, I have all of the files on my computer and loaded into Lightroom. And within an hour after that, I'm able to comb through looking for the specific moments that I've remembered throughout the day that I want to get them in their preview. And I have photos edited for my couples within 2 to 3 hours of being home from a wedding. Now, this part of my process is something that I would highly recommend for you to start adapting in your workflow. Getting couples previews within 24 hours is one of the key things that has allowed for me to expand my business over the last 5 years. And when the industry seems like it's in a decline, has allowed for me to stay consistently booked and not have to worry about the state of my business. But once the previews are all done, the next tool that really helps me is Aftershoot AI. Once I'm ready to start digging in and editing the full gallery, that's where Aftershoot AI steps in and really helps in this workflow. Aftershoot is able to cull and add a base layer edit to my photos in about 2 hours. All you do is load the photos into the program, select the options that you want to choose, and from there, it does its AI magic and gets your photos back to you, like I said, within 1 to 2 hours. They're fully culled and edited. Now, it's not perfect, but it does save me so many hours that I don't have to go through selecting photos. If you'd like for me to go more in depth on Aftershoot AI and how I use it in my business, leave a comment down below and I'll do a full in-depth review on the entire program. Fast previews are great for your clients. However, small mistakes in your workflow can cost you time and stress. These are some common mistakes that photographers make and how you can avoid them entirely. You never want to overlook that your files were uploaded to your hard drive. It's easy to plug in a bunch of SD cards, copy the files, and just walk away from your computer. But once you get back to your computer, you're going to want to sit down and verify that the amount of files that were on the SD cards made it over to your hard drive. You don't want to get halfway through editing your gallery and realize that 2 of your second shooter's cards aren't even in Lightroom, and now you have to go back into your safe, pull out the SD cards, and upload them. Another mistake is relying on 1 or 2 SD card readers. If in your mind you're thinking, man, uploading these photos is going to take me the next 2 to 3 hours, you're going to avoid it like the plague, and you're not going to want to get an early preview to your clients. But if you have 4, 5, or 6 SD card readers and you know that you can just plug them all in and the files will upload within the hour and you don't even have to think about it, it just makes your life a lot easier, and it allows for you to give a fast turnaround to your clients and create better results for your business and really allow for yourself to do something that the majority of the industry just really isn't doing. Obviously, another mistake that you want to avoid is not having the right backups. I believe that you should never rely on just one backup. If that backup goes and the original goes, then you have no files, which is why I think redundancy really matters. It might seem overboard, like I said, to have 3, 4, 5 different backups, but you can sleep silently at night and not have to give your client that dreaded call that you've lost all of their wedding photos. So please have more than just one backup. So now do you think you have your workflow perfected? Tying it all together is what makes you efficient, reliable, and unforgettable. Having a solid post-wedding workflow is a non-negotiable that you should be working towards if you don't already have one set up in your business. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you have any questions about your workflow, please leave them down in the comments below. And if you haven't done it already, like the video, subscribe to the channel. All of this helps me get this video out to more photographers looking for help just like you. Until the next one, see you guys later.